Welcome to the RAG Podcast, the weekly show where I interview recruitment owners who are prepared to tell their unique story of growth. This is all in aid of helping future and existing recruitment businesses who are looking to do similar things. Now, growth means different things to different people. So by tuning in every week, you're no doubt going to find information that's relevant to you. Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Podcast. On this week's show, I'm joined by Andrew MacAskill. I had Andrew on in 2020. I think he was 2 weeks into the pandemic, and we talked about where he was then. Andrew is the founder of Executive Career Jump, a global career coaching business helping executives get into work. He's worked with over thousands of executives in 40 countries worldwide. He's a published author of the Job Search Playbook, helping people read his book and find themselves work. And he's the chief commercial officer of Fraser Dove, a life science exec search firm headquartered in the UK with offices in the US and in Europe as well. In this episode, we talk about Andrew's rise to over 105,000 followers on LinkedIn, how he became part of the LinkedIn Changemaker team, was on the adverts for LinkedIn, and the impact of building his personal brand and what that meant for him financially and how he started to win business all over the world. We then talk about how he then took the job at Fraser Dove and why he then entered a business where he worked for the founders but began to lead the revenue line, how his personal brand and the brand of the team have directly had an ROI on the business, and the innovation of how they're building the business towards an exit. It's incredible. It's some of the things we talk about in this episode I've never heard or never discussed on this show today. So if you're interested in building your LinkedIn presence, if you're interested in building communities, if you're interested in building a business set for scale and exit, this one is for you. Without further ado, Andrew, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Five years, I think.
5 years since we were last on, just after the...
I don't think I've really spoken to you in 5 years. We've shared a few messages here and there, but we haven't seen each other and spoke properly since the first month of the pandemic.
It was the first week, I think, wasn't it?
It was like, well, when it all unfolded, March the 17th or something, when we shut the country, or school, the businesses said, don't go back out. I think it was 2 weeks later, me and you did the episode. Something.
Yeah, insane.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's such an anxious time.
Yeah.
Such an anxious time.
I love the fact you've rocked up in the quarter zip. We're just talking about the quarter zip.
It's the 2025 uniform, isn't it? It seems to be.
You got the gilet as well.
I've got the gilet, of
You
course.
got the Finance Pro gilet.
Chelsea boots.
I mean, I've gone for the black trainer.
Full headhunter get up today for the podcast.
I'm not even a headhunter anymore.
You're still doing all right. Yeah, you're
all right.
mirroring your market.
The black trainer with the white sole is like the acceptable.
Yeah.
It's the acceptable shoe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trainer shoe.
All occasion.
I know. And you've travelled in from Winchester way today?
Yeah, lived between Winchester and Southampton, so jumped on the train up this morning.
Yeah.
Still down there, raising a young family, enjoying it.
Remember when I came to Execs Online in Winchester?
You did?
Yeah, it was great.
Came to our little office by the train station.
Did? Literally by the train. I just came out in and back on.
Oh, and that would have been 7 or 8 years ago.
That was 2018, I think.
Yeah.
That's fucking mad.
I know.
I had grey hair, but not like I have now. No stress, not as much stress them days. Mate, I think a lot of people know you. If they don't know you, just give us an elevator pitch, bird's eye, quick who you are, what you do, without any of the detail. We'll go back and tell us.
Yeah, no worries. I won't give too much detail. So yeah, I'm Andrew. I guess I've spent the last 20 years working on both sides of the hiring equation. So as a career coach in one side, but also in executive search, worked in 3 or 4 different countries, was an MD at quite an early age, out of my depth at quite an early age, and I've learned a lot during that period. And currently CCO of Fraser Dove, so we're a life science talent consultancy of 35, 40 odd consultants working in search.
Wicked. And so when we met, you were working for Execs Online. I think they sold off now, haven't they?
They did?
Yeah, they went. And that was like, you were a conglomerate of headhunters, but most of the guys had been ex-industry, hadn't they? They come from being an exec to recruiting execs. It was a really cool concept.
It was franchised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was the MD and we had a team of recruiters in the UK, but we actually took our system, which was working at the time, and then franchised it across Europe and South Africa.
Yeah.
So we ended up with about 20, 25 franchisees who were, as you say, ex-industry execs who we turned into headhunters. And it's still going now. One of those industry execs bought the whole group in the end.
Is that the German? Was it?
Yeah.
German guy, Stefan.
That's right, yeah. Good memory.
I know.
That's it. Can't teach
remember.
it.
I remember.
Still got it.
I remember everything. It's sometimes to my detriment. It can be
I know, yeah.
No, I'll be honest with you, right? I've got this weird thing where I think from about 2003, 4, I can remember something that happened in my life every month.
Wow.
I could literally, I've got this like weird view of my life that I can, do you know like when you look at your iPhone and you look at months and years and you can zoom out of the photos? That's how I look at my life. I can literally
Piece it together.
I can find something really quick, and I might be 6 weeks out, but I'll be pretty close. That's weird.
That's good BD skill set, that.
Yeah, that helped me. That was very like Mike Ross in Suits kind of.
Exactly.
It helped me in recruitment big time.
Yeah.
But so you left that business. You did a bit of work with the likes of Finley James. When we recorded, where had you just, were you completely unemployed at that point? Like, where were you at the beginning of COVID? I can't remember.
Yeah. So at the beginning of COVID, I was all in on Executive Career Jump, which is my own career.
Had you already thought of that
platform.
before the pandemic then?
Yeah, I'd already thought of that before I left Executives Online.
Yeah.
So I was at Executives Online for 5 years, and in the start of the 5th year, I was getting asked all the time for help with LinkedIn and CVs and stuff. So set up an online course using an online platform called Kajabi, which you probably know of. It's really cool.
I've used it.
Yeah, very cool.
Still Kajabi now you use?
Yeah.
Yeah. We migrated onto a platform called Circle.
Yeah.
Based on the community element of Kajabi, just wasn't there. But
yeah.
But when we did them first videos for you in our first office,
they were the videos for my first ever Kajabi course. So I was still at EO at that point.
Do you remember that office? It was stone
insane.
cold.
Yeah.
It had no heating. It had no soundproofing.
No.
It was actually horrific in what it looked cool, but it was like not an environment. And we did some decent videos for you in there, but
those videos are still going strong. We've added to them, and they're still selling well.
Yeah.
We had to keep stopping because there was a motorbike repair shop downstairs, and they were revving up motorbikes.
And there was a Rottweiler, so if it wasn't the bike, it was
the
dog.
Rottweiler. Yeah. So no, they're really fun days, right? And at the very start of the whole personal branding and content generation thing, like we were kind of the early adopters of that before it became more mainstream.
I think you kind of exploded though. That's how I would explain it. I think I was consistently at it because you were like, come to my office and post for us and we might get a bit of traction with recruiters. So you were like looking to me for that guidance. But then I'd say in about a 3-month period, you just went bang.
Yeah.
And I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the audience that you tapped into was phenomenal because think about how many people are on LinkedIn looking for work, and then we hit a pandemic. It was like everyone wanted your advice. I remember you'd go on a live, and it was just like the whole of LinkedIn was watching you. It was like nuts.
Yeah, and I think that was the piece. It was the live broadcasting. Yeah. Like during a time when everyone was locked down, to be able to live broadcast, and it was just a live Q&A, wasn't it, basically? Just at home. We called it Job Search Hacks.
Yeah.
12:15 every Thursday. We found out if you did it at 12:15 instead of 12, more people turned out because the time was more specific. Weird.
Probably give them like 15 minutes to get off a call and,
and get a coffee,
go to the toilet and have a coffee and have a
yeah. So it works, and it just blew up. And then over that 2 to 3 year period, our following went from 15,000 to 85,000.
It's incredible.
On LinkedIn. We're about 105 or so now, but it's slowed down compared to that period. And we had 1,000 inbound clients, either subscribers or people who were buying courses or whatever it was.
What were you paying? What were you charging people then?
Our average deal value was about 200 to 250 quid, something like that.
1,000 clients?
Inbound, yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
No, it was all right. And we were doing advisory work and portfolio work to stay in the search world on top of that. So it was.
You think about it, like you've gone from being employed in a very good role, MD, you've took a load of knowledge and skills, you've took a risk, you're obviously, the world's in a difficult spot, and you've just manufactured a product out of nothing that's generated £250,000 or whatever. I did very similar. You remember when I launched the bootcamp, the academy? Yeah. I'm sat there in March, April 2020, and I said to Amma, like, I'd been talking about this bootcamp for years. Like Hisham had left and set something up, and that it was something I've been talking about since about 2018. And I was like, I've got to do this now. And it was Easter weekend, and you remember the weather was incredible, and everyone I knew was like in the park, or I mean, you couldn't do a lot because it was COVID, but you could go on a run and a walk or whatever. I was literally just in my little cupboard in this flat with my ex that we were splitting up, and it was horrific. I was like, I'm building this. And I built it in 2 days, Kajabi. No, it was ClickFunnels at the time.
Oh yeah, ClickFunnels, yeah.
And we made 165,000 in 4 months off that, pure profit. Because the agency kept the business going from a cost perspective, which I was worried was going to tank, which is why I was like, I'm building this now. So if everything goes to shit, I can make money. But it didn't. It all just flatlined, kept costs covered, bit of profit there, and we just went woomph. And I was like, wow.
Insane.
It was the second time I created something from scratch that I didn't know anything about. I knew the content, but I didn't know the mechanics of building it, and I had to learn through mistakes. And so if you go back to that time, what mistakes did you make? Because it couldn't have all been perfect what you did.
No, well, the biggest the biggest challenge is try not to make it entirely about you.
Yeah.
So we started to scale, brought in other coaches, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And we started to win like big B2B contracts where we were doing like outplacement of.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, like major outplacements where people were letting go 100 people, and we managed the entire offboarding of 100 people and stuff. It was really cool, really cool. But the challenge, I don't know if it was a mistake because it got us to where we needed to get to in the first place, was that it was all entirely tied up in my personal brand.
Yeah.
And people weren't up for being delegated on. And you know this is the same in most professional services businesses, isn't it? And so, I never got it down to a T in terms of, like, if I was to do it again now, I would also have like an academy whereby I would train the other coaches on our methodology, on our playbook.
Make it a system.
And we kind of systemized it for the book because we ended up publishing a book, which we still get royalties from every quarter. It's still selling all over the world. It's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And in that book, we systemized it, the Job Search Playbook. But that's what I do now, is get accredited coaches who could deliver that particular playbook, I think.
I've not come in with this plan, but tell us about writing a book. Like, what? Because again, I've had a few people say to me, "Is this something you'd do?" And I'm like, never really was on the radar. But now I'm like, maybe one day. Yeah. I'm just not a very good writer, which puts me off. But I guess someone else is going to do a lot of the bulk if you get a ghostwriter. But you are a good writer, I'd say. You've got a style that you come across really well from what I've read of your stuff. So how did you put it together?
Yeah. So how I put it together was I'd written a lot of content on all of the chapters anyway. Yeah. And so I literally went through my entire LinkedIn history, and particularly the articles, and started to piece it together. And the reason that we decided to go down that route was twofold. One, authority building. Mm-hmm. And I can draw a direct line from starting the book publication to getting way more speaker gigs. Like, we went from paying to speak at events to people paying us significant cash to speak at business schools, trade meetups, all sorts of different things.
Wow.
And that's really cool. We still do a bit of that now.
Yeah.
And I think the book gives you the platform to go and do that. So it's authority building. But also the mission element behind it was that, some of our subscriptions were $1,000 a month or $200 a month or whatever. And we wanted to get more help out to more job seekers. And so we were like, right, we're going to make this less than 100 pages. It was 99, I think, in the end, or 97 or something, so that people can read it quick and get an injection of energy into what they're trying to do if they're been made redundant or whatever it might be, but also keep it under a tenner. So it was just an idea of, we do the live broadcast, but let's also get something else out there that's more a scale product, that's not just executive career jump.
And it doesn't require any work once it's out there.
Well, it's just,
not from you're not manually doing anything. How does it get sold and distributed? Is it on Amazon or something?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, and ours sits very high in the algorithm because of the reviews it's had, and because of it became a bestseller within 2 days.
Yeah. So people literally just type job search, boom, and you come up in...
Yeah, it's SEO. Yeah, we throw straight up because of the reviews and stuff, and the early sales. It just blew up, mate. It completely popped up. And I say, every quarter we get our Amazon statement, and we're still getting some pretty decent royalties for it, and it's like proud of.
Something you'd do, I don't know, fun money with it, like go and do something with it? Like.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we kind of just take that as, like holidays, traveling and that kind of stuff. It's just, it's a very nice thing. But it's also really nice, like, genuinely, not just from an ego point of view, to go on and read the reviews. Like, if you're having a bit of a down day or things aren't going that well, like, reading a review from somebody that you've touched who's in a different country and is going through a really difficult period of their life, and they've read the book and then they've took the time to go on and write an Amazon review with a picture of them in the book saying how it's given them clarity and confidence at the time they needed it. Like, we're getting a bit older and soppier now, aren't we, with dads and all that? And like, that kind of thing really lights you up the longer you get in your career, right?
Purpose. That's why
Purpose.
Why do you get up every day?
Exactly that.
Like, I think it's massive. I keep saying it, as I'm getting older, how I make my money is becoming as important as how much. Obviously, there's levels to that, and we've all got lives to live and, things we want to achieve. But how is important. I think if I look at Hoxo when I met you and Hoxo now, we worked out what our values were, and we stripped away everything that didn't match. So like we worked out there was the things that were important to us were clients were genuinely happy with what we were doing. Our team were genuinely happy with and they're not overworked, they're not burnt out. It's profitable, and we're proud of it. And I think if any of those 4 are not evident, we've got problems.
Yep.
And we're constantly measuring, constantly looking at those 4 things. And at the time, we were making some serious money, but we weren't proud of things, and clients were unhappy. And then there was times where the team were overworked and burnt out, and so yeah, I think as you get older and soppier, you think the little things are important.
Of course it is. Impact really matters. Yeah. And, a lot of recruiters last year were in a very tough market, us included. And I think you could sleep well knowing that, those that had been through your program over the last few years may well have been able to keep going, may well have been able to make new connections because of what you taught them. And that might have given them that competitive edge last year. We saw so many organisations go down, but those ones who had a personal brand for sure had a competitive advantage, right? So,
well, let's talk about that. I want to get into how you joined Fraser Dove and why and all that in a minute, but obviously your personal brand grew. You're not necessarily a recruiter at this point. You're more of a coach and helping job seekers. So, but what impact did it, how would you tangibly explain the impact that it had on you, and then that it could have on others if they invest in this?
Yeah, so it's so many different ways, right? It's compound interest as it gets described. Like it builds and builds and builds. And as I said, it's kind of like the more lives you do, the more customers you get, the more followers you get, the more opportunity you get. The more opportunity you get, the more speaking you get. All of a sudden you're getting paid to speak to a room full of people that can buy your services. Yeah. Like that is wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
That someone's paying you to do BD.
Yeah.
Perfect. Like what?
Warm inbound in a room waiting for you.
In a room waiting for you. So, the impact has been seismic. I've been involved with so many different projects and different things, including, as you said, the LinkedIn Changemakers, which was, an insane experience. Find myself in a TV studio.
That was class, yeah.
Yeah, and everything that was involved there. So it's huge. But I think. Yeah, I'll give you an example of some of the ways that it impacts that people maybe don't think. So we did a project with a group of executives of a FTSE business, and they approached us and said, "Can you come and help us do blogs and videos because we want to win more customers?" Okay, so it was like a social selling thing, similar to the type of stuff that you would help people with. So we went up there, we sat down with the 5 execs, big businesses, up north actually, interestingly, and we did a content plan for them and got the personal branding going. And they won a few new customers, which was cool, right? Thank goodness. It's always a relief, as you know. Always a relief. Good, it did work. But what happened that no one was expecting was their careers page blew up. So HR got in touch and was like, what have you done here? And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, our careers page has blown up by 70% since you started the personal branding with leaders. And we did that without posting a single job, a single call to action about working for them. All we were doing was showcasing the personalities in the boardroom.
Yeah.
But as you know, and as I know, people trust people more than they trust companies.
Yeah.
People pick a leader, not a job. People want mentorship, and they're craving leadership right now in a way that they never had before.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the careers page blew up, right? But we weren't expecting that at all. So the value wasn't just the obvious bit around customer acquisition. The ability to hire at scale, the ability to stand out from competitors, and all these kind of auxiliary benefits that come from it are huge.
I mean, obviously, I know this and I agree with everything you said. If we look at most people in our sector that aren't doing this, the argument I would get hit with, which we spoke about on the previous episode, is, but I can't guarantee that if I get 100 likes on a post, I'm going to make 2 placements or whatever. It's the intangibles. It's I'd agree. I'd expect that you're like me, where you believe in the numbers. Like you see that you've got 80,000 followers, you see that you got 50,000 impressions. You can see that there's value there, and that those auxiliary benefits that you're not expecting come through. Whereas, what would you say to people in our sector that just everything's binary? It's like I make 10 BD calls, I have to have a job. Like how can they get on board with this?
Well, I think you have to look at how buying happens. And I think the direct ROI mindset is too transactional. I think it's way more holistic than that. I think people are buying more than ever based on who's front of mind. And so if you're showing up in their feed, even if they're not commenting or liking, you're occupying space in their brain that your competitors aren't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I also think they buy based on referral, more than ever, actually. I've got an anecdote which I'll share with you quickly on that. And so building a personal brand is another way to drive referral. Is it all right if I quickly share this thing? Because your vibe of this is a bit of you. So when I joined FDI, I went out to Boston. I was really fortunate because the founders paid for me to do a keynote at a HR and TA meetup in Boston within our life sciences sector. Wow. Right? Really cool. So we had our branding everywhere. And I did a keynote on the talent crunch and everything that's driving the talent crunch in our sector. And we were trying to really own the narrative around the talent crunch at that point. That was our brand play.
Yeah.
And afterwards, you sit around in these round tables and you go through different workshops and you go through different topics. So there's me and then 9 of like the perfect phenotype person that I want to sell to sat around this table. And look, luckily we closed some business on that trip and it was all good. We got an ROI. But sat around this table and somebody who was from one of the VCs on the West Coast, Joy, said, hey, has anybody got any search firms they would recommend to do mapping and market research? Now, bear in mind, this is one of the products that we offer at FDI and we just launched around that time. And somebody else popped up and said, oh, yeah, there's this group in the UK called Armstrong Craven. Not cheap, but what they've delivered is fantastic and the board absolutely loved it. At that point, another one popped up and said, yeah, absolutely. We've just finished a project with them. Incredible the level of detail they went to. At that point, the other 6 stakeholders around the table brought up their phone, brought up Armstrong Craven's website, and they were going, is this the one? And they were submitting inquiries into Armstrong Craven's website in front of me, right? I'm sat there like, these bastards.
Did they know that you were, like, did they not, they just completely missed the fact that you were in the room and that you do that?
They were just acting naturally.
Yeah.
But what an insight, right? Because those guys closed 6 clients at the event that I was sponsoring and just delivered what I thought was an amazing keynote in front of me. I'm like, you animals, what's going on here? And it's like, well, that is how people are buying. That is what they trust. They trust industry groups. It's happening in Slack groups. It's happening in WhatsApps. It's happening. And there's no doubt that the delivery, customer success, very, very important. But I have since been referred into people by people I don't know. You know, it's kind of, oh, you need something in life science. You should talk to Andrew. And the person who's referred me, I've never worked with and don't know.
No. So, yeah, well, I think so what we're saying is the referrals of old were always our best work, always the best leads, and they always will be. But now there's a new world of referrals. There's a way of getting a referral from people online. Kyle Winterbottom, who's coming on the show, who's one of my customers, he sent me a bonkers WhatsApp. I've still got it. January 23, I think. He just closed a £200,000 retained team move project in the US, and I'm like, wow. And he goes, yeah, but the best bit is I was referred by someone I've never even met. So a company in Australia referred him to a company in the US, and he didn't know any of them.
No,
And
no.
it's like, wow.
I've had that numerous times for various things.
Yeah.
And I've also looked at the data, like we looked at FDI, all of the new logos that we brought on, and then looked at the trail.
Can I just go back on what you said, though? Would the pessimist listening to this not say, well, Armstrong Craven didn't even need to have the brand, didn't need to go to the event, they just needed to do a good job, and look what happened, they got a better return than you. So we'll just carry on doing what we do, we'll just stay offline, we'll be under the radar headhunters, and we'll do a really good job for people.
Well, and I think I would understand why people would say that.
Yeah.
But what you have to believe, based on that case study, and what I have believed since, is that everybody's goal should be the most referred consultant in their market or the most referred brand in their industry.
Yeah.
Right? Like that should be our goals. And so, yes, doing a great job is an amazing channel to get referred into opportunity, but so is personal branding is an amazing opportunity. So why limit the amount of that can happen?
Why would you close one door? Yeah.
You're also, by our data, we're 4 times more likely to win a competitive pitch when we've been referred in. Shock horror. So it's not even just about the volume, it's about the chance of you closing the opportunity in your pipeline versus the other blend of things that you're doing. So why wouldn't you amplify it? Like, it makes no sense to restrict it to only customer success-based, opportunistic ones. Do it at scale.
Yeah. Well, that is the difference, it's scale.
Yes.
Now, before we get into the next bit about you is, and this probably touches a little bit on the stuff that you do through Exec Career Jump, which is the emotional side of becoming a content creator. So I guess I don't think this is something I massively ever worried about or ever, and maybe you didn't, but going from someone who didn't post to suddenly posting, I think I was quite natural. Like, I don't think I ever really overthought it too much, but a lot of people are like, fuck, this is not my identity. Like, I've never done this. I get this all the time. I don't use LinkedIn. I don't use Facebook. I don't use Instagram. I don't do any of it. I don't want to put my life out. I don't really want to put my life out there. Have you had any experience of that, of working? Because you're asking a lot of these executives to go out there and put themselves out there and start connecting with hiring managers and, be more vocal about themselves. So is that a similar challenge and something you've covered?
Yeah, of course. And I think you could be, if you're not careful, you can fall into personal bland instead of personal brand, where, people kind of overthink it and they're putting out vanilla stuff. Oh, that's the worst, man. Yeah. It's just so dull. So, I see people overthinking. I see people not writing as they speak. And one of the best bits of advice I was given early by an entrepreneur that I worked with in Australia, she was early onto the content marketing before I even moved back to the UK. Yeah. We both had a Melbourne stint, didn't we?
Yeah.
Was write as you speak.
Yeah.
And she used to say that for email. And so I really took that into my content. The same rant I would have with you over a coffee about something I'd seen in the industry that I wasn't happy about. I just wrote it in that way. And at times we've actually got people to dictate it into their phone first, into a dictation app, and then just lift the text so that it's exactly written as they speak.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to...
But it's the emotion around the scale bit. So it's like, I'll have that chat one-on-one, but it's the thought of doing it at scale that suddenly is an identity shift.
Yeah, and it's weird because you do get people talk to you and recognise you and all of that. I mean, we're talking G-list, aren't we, in terms of notoriety? But still, it's you get people come up to you, people think they know you. That's a little bit of a shift when someone starts talking to you in Starbucks and you've got no idea who they are.
I've had two, the weirdest two. One, I'm in Belfast on a stag do.
Oh, no.
No, a 40th. And I get some guy come up to me hammered who goes, "Yeah, mate, do you know where the toilet is in here?" And then he looks at me and goes, "You're Sean, the recruitment podcast guy." And I was like, "Yeah, do you want the toilet?" And then I'm in Sheffield United, where I live now, and my in-laws are all big Sheffield United fans. They got promoted 2 years ago before they went and got relegated again. We'd had a full day. I was drinking at the time. I was in a kebab shop about 6 o'clock after the game, and it's packed full of fans. And I'm ordering, and all I hear is, "Hoxo!" And it's two lads who've been on my training who I didn't recognise them.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I went and had a little chat with him, and I was hammered, so it wasn't probably the best chat, but yeah, people will recognise you, and it's weird. But I think it's fear of what the people that know them are going to say and think. That's where I think the underlying pain comes from, and it's often people you know personally. It's WhatsApp groups, it's colleagues in the office.
Oh yeah, you get the piss taken out of you. Everybody does in one way or another. But it's tall poppy syndrome, as the Aussies say. The tall poppy gets cut down.
Yeah,
and you will have people at times trying to cut you down. Like when I went, there were career coaches who've been in the industry for 10, 15 years who hated what we did during the pandemic, right?
I bet.
And were quite vocal about it and were questioning our motives and saying that we were an online shyster and blah, 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 blah. Like all of that stuff comes out. But in my experience, the positive sentiment that you get
outweighs the negative.
Oh, it's not even close, mate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still getting DMs from people that have watched something on YouTube last night that are saying it's up. Like, it's an incredible feeling to live in an age where you've got a platform like that you can get your message out and amplify what you believe in to a bigger group of people. It's incredible.
Well, I think it was on a Stephen Bartlett episode. They talk about how, our parents benefited from affordable housing. Was we're benefiting from being able to create brands that can create global businesses in our bedrooms. Like we can create stuff at scale that was just impossible 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and so, it's a double-edged sword.
I bet you work with people all over the world, right, with that business?
40 countries. Yeah. US is our biggest.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But it means the competition's global, but it means the opportunity's global. And so, personal brand is one way, and I think value proposition is another, that you have of differentiating at a global scale.
Yeah. A message from today's episode sponsor, Untapped. Untapped are the market leader and go-to agency for finding and hiring elite offshore talent into the UK,
US and Australian-based recruitment agency market. Now, I don't partner with sponsors I don't believe in myself. Untapped are someone I've personally used to build the team at Hoxo, and it's been a game changer. No one else we've worked with can compete with both the quality of the network and the time to hire, and the impact they've had on our business has been insane. From hiring, from consulting, from advice, they're a premium team that you can trust, and you're guaranteed to access a network of top-tier international talent that could be right for your business. Look, they interview over 3,000 candidates and put them through a 4-stage interview online every single month, and they only represent the top 1%. So you're going to get a thorough service at speed. So if you're looking at international hiring where you're looking at getting up to 70% less in terms of cost for equivalent UK member of staff in both recruitment and back office roles, then it's a complete no-brainer. All right, you're going to love it. So they are currently showing a waiting list for their next cohort of hiring, and it's almost full. If you'd like to join the waiting list, then click on the link in the show notes and take it from there. Good luck.
Let's go into your movement then. To why did you go back into the world of work? Why did you go into to take a big job in a recruitment business when you're earning good money, you've got an amazing brand? You could have just scaled and grown and carried on with your own business.
Yeah, well, I stayed in with the exec search world whilst I was running Career Jump. So I was really lucky to work with the likes of Capello and Executives in Sport and Fraser Dove on an advisory basis, coming in and talking value propositions or training on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. So I already knew the business. I'd met them at TRN many moons ago. We were sat next to each other because we were the only ones who did search. And so I'd got to know what they were doing. And I guess there was 2 or 3 reasons. One, post-pandemic, the need for job search coaching wasn't as high as it was during the pandemic. So we could have carried on as a lifestyle business, but it was nowhere near the levels that we were seeing during the pandemic. It was kind of right place, right time for that product, I think. And we would have evolved it and done whatever. So that was one element. 2, I really liked what the guys were trying to do. It's kind of a clear 5-year exit plan, clear scale up. And the life science bit fascinated me. I know you've had life science clients and other people in here talking about it. Until you're in that space, it's hard to explain.
Had you done anything in there through Exec Online? No.
Hardly. Like dabbled. Like just some of the big pharma companies at various points. It is so cool, mate. Like once it kind of grips you, it's incredible. Like you're literally speaking to some of the smartest people in the world who are trying to solve the biggest health problems that are known to man.
Wow.
And you're going to...
Is it medical devices as well? Or just,
yeah. So we do med device, we do biotech, and we do pharma and pharma services, and anything around that ecosystem. But the tech is like mind-blowing. You're talking robots, you're talking things that you walk through and it scans you and gives you 1,000 readings in a second around what's going on in your body. You're talking implants that you can put into somebody who's had a car crash and their lungs have collapsed, and it will keep their lungs going for another 12 hours until they get to hospital. You're talking, every part of the body, every...
Would anything like the Whoop, like with that health tech, is that part of it or not?
Health tech's a huge part of it, particularly the data element.
Yeah,
because you take...
I love this. Like I got this when I stopped drinking, and I'm like, it's the first thing I do every morning is check my sleep. And
it's health tech. That is health tech.
I've become obsessed with it. My wife, I got the Aura ring for my wife for Christmas.
Oh yeah,
and she was a bit like, thought I was a bit of a wanker with this, to be honest. And,
she converted.
The other day, we literally, last Friday night, we got to bed. We obviously got a baby. The kids are older. My stepkids go to their dad, so we're in bed at like 10:30 or something. Saturday morning, we woke up at 6:30, just wide awake. First thing we both did was roll over and check our data.
Yeah.
And we were dead excited because we both got like 85%.
You knew it was going to be good.
Yeah, and I was like, fucking hell, times have changed. Like, but I wouldn't change it. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
I like the fact we feel good and we're having a coffee and
it's amazing.
Connecting on something completely different than you used to be drinking till 3 a.m. and feeling like shit.
Yeah, I'm regretting it.
Yeah, but so this kind of movement is massive.
That's health tech. Yeah. So take that for example. There will be a certain amount of people who've had heart attacks who are wearing a Whoop band.
Yeah.
What we'll be able to do with AI data now is to aggregate all that data, look at the variances in their key metrics prior to that event, and then be able to prevent heart attacks in a way better way than we had before, right? That is what digital health and health tech is bringing to the world. When we have operations in the future, you'll have something like that put on you afterwards so that they can monitor you from home, and there'll actually be a dose of medicine in it that they can remote inject to you if they need to, if your heart stops or something, via the device. Like, it's incredible where that market's going. So it's intoxicating once you start getting into it.
Yeah. Is there anything around the whole... I mean, we're totally going off topic now, but is there anything around like the health, like exercise and medicine, but I think food is probably the biggest. Food and drink is the biggest cause of lifestyle issues.
Yeah.
Is there any part of that in the industry? Like, or is that kind of like the anti-Christ of the industry?
No, I think the lines are starting to blur. I mean, obviously, there's quite a lot of data, for example, and also the mental health side with the physical health side. So yeah, food and the crossover there. There's definitely talk of that there. You think about businesses like Zoe and ones like that are kind of talking about
health
that and inflammation and things like that. But also the mental and the physical. So there's data out and research studies that show that people with high stress are more likely to get arthritis because that stress crystallizes in your body and your joints, right? So we're making links, and mainly because of data, in a way that we haven't been able to before. So, for me, to get the opportunity to come in to a business with a clear growth strategy.
So what did you walk into then? Paint the picture. What was it like?
Yeah, so it's 30 people split across Farnham and London. The founders, Tom and Joe, great guys, similar age to me, brother-in-laws. The brother-in-law thing's quite important because there's an underlying value and care to what they're doing, which I really like.
Yeah.
I'm not going to describe it as a family because it's not. It's a company, and I think that's sometimes you can go a bit.
I don't like the family.
No, me
thing.
neither.
People don't choose family.
No, and you don't ever fire your family even if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of the culture side was very, very good. It's exec search, which is the end of the market. I really enjoy the leadership piece, and they'd also started to get involved with more non-search services. And I've got a bit of a management consult. I had a management consulting phase when I was in Australia, and I loved the idea of being able to help with that and to build out some additional products and services. So
again, you did it in the pandemic yourself.
Yeah,
you're spotting a life cycle, and you're thinking, how do I monetize different parts in different ways?
Yeah, exactly that.
As opposed to just and I genuinely think like as an industry, we've only ever monetized one connection point.
Yeah,
it's like how much more could we do to monetize different
and what's
parts.
coming next, and continuing to evolve.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that, and I think
not knowing the industry, coming in as CCO, like what did you do? Like what was your actual?
Yeah. So my job is to grow the revenue line.
Yeah.
Right. We have an MD, Louise, whose job it is to make sure that the processes, the customer success, and the fulfillment happens. My job's to grow the revenue line. So I came in, I met everybody, amazing people, great culture. Everybody really bought in. A lot of the leaders were organic, who were hired entry level and are now worked up their way to some really cool stuff. And we built a growth strategy built around community, capability, and customers. Had different work streams under each one, and off we went. And first year we grew 60%, something like that.
Wow!
So had a really good impact.
You personally go meeting clients, getting you better on the market.
All of that. Yeah. Speaking at events, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That's been a major part of the role. So lots of time in the US, lots of time in Switzerland. We subsequently opened the US and Switzerland as well.
Boots on the ground there.
Boots on the ground there now, yeah. One we hired from external is Josh, who's heading up the DAC region, and then Harry, who was in Farnham, then opened London, has now been sent out to the US as VP US, and he's 27, I think.
Where's that? Where have you opened in the US?
We initially opened Miami, but then moved to New York,
right?
Which has been a really cool move.
Why?
Because we're doing more and more work with private equity companies, and they're all on Lexington Avenue.
So you just need to be there.
Yeah, so I go there regularly, and we speed date the private equity guys and have a good time and eat all the food.
Yeah, New York's fucking mega.
It's so cool, yeah.
I'd be honest, I'm not a massive Miami fan. I went this summer. Went to Peru to see my brother for.
Oh yeah.
How long was I there? I was there for 9 days in Peru, and I did a few in Miami on either side. I think the weather was just terrible. Like it's genuinely like in our summer, it's so wet and so volatile. Like you'd be on a beach, perfect sun, and 20 minutes later, like
bang,
torrential for like 5 hours. I was like, and you got a baby and like trying to sort that out.
It's not the one, yeah.
No, but I don't know. There's something about Miami. Didn't do it for me. Whereas I love New York. I love LA. I mean, I'm so sad about LA.
Oh, of course, it's awful.
I was there for 4 months when I was 19, 20, coaching soccer, and I loved it. Didn't get that same vibe in Miami. So when you say, I think New York's a better place to be.
Well, yeah, it's a good landing spot for UK businesses.
It's not incredibly expensive to be there, though. Like,
no, there's massive tax breaks.
Really?
Yeah.
New York?
No. Miami.
Yeah, I'm saying about going to New York, though.
Oh, yeah.
A hugely...
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But as I say, our private equity is where our growth is coming from.
So you're getting in with those firms, and then they're filtering you
into the portfolio. Yeah, exactly right.
How do you get in with private equity then on a higher level? What are you doing to build that?
Yeah, so a lot of insights-led discussions. So taking to them things of value that are non-recruitment focused in the first place and offering to present to them on the major trends in the industry that they can use. What we did was did some analysis of all of the mid-cap size organisations we work with and then reverse engineer it and say who funded them at each stage and then approach them with the case study saying we're already doing this in one part of your portfolio. Why don't we put together an MSA that you can then roll out across your portfolio as a benefit to being part of your world? And there'll be good cost savings and more business for us. So we've kind of gone up the chain, down the chain. We've worked a number of different angles on it. And I just love that section.
Are you like brought in to present these?
Yes. Yeah.
That's one of your biggest bits, is
Yes.
Go and stand in front of them.
Yeah. And deliver the insights, deliver the trends.
Could you do that without you, do you think? Would that be...
Yeah, no. I mean, Harry in the US has, started off riding shotgun, I guess, on all of these and is now, his key metrics are about face-to-face meetings in New York, telling our story, presenting our insights and driving that.
So what are the services, the paid services off the back of that you then offer?
So there's some services in the pre-deal and due diligence phase. So if they're looking to buy a new asset, we're putting execs in to help them make the right decision and to get the acquisition past the investment committee of things. And then it's team builds once they've bought, because they'll buy something off of private owners or they'll carve something out of a bigger company and they need to build leadership teams.
Yeah.
And so that's straight into our core business.
Yeah. And it's all retained and exec search at that level?
Yeah, we're about 90% retained across our portfolio, something like that.
Yeah.
And some non-search services, either in the attract phase or the assessment phase, or even the retention phase. We've got services to help them hold on to their best people as well.
So how do you balance what you do, and then how do you balance your brand now? So you've gone from, like you say, it's all about executives, supporting executives' career movement. How do you, because I get a lot of these people asking me these questions where they're like, I'm shifting job, shifting industry.
Yeah.
What do I do about these audiences I've built? I've got a lot of followers or connections from a previous company. Do I delete them? Do I not? I always say, look, unless you're at 30,000 and you've hit a limit, don't even waste your time.
Don't worry about it too much.
But you are beyond that.
Yeah. So out of the 105,000 followers, I reckon 5,000 of them are life sciences. So that's part of that is a challenge.
Yeah.
Because when you post, the majority of people seeing it aren't going to be in your target market. But you've
got an intention of longevity, right? You're not going out of this market tomorrow.
No, exactly. But what that still does is offer you social proof. When you're landing and connecting with people in your space, they're seeing what you're doing and you're front of mind. And a lot of my calls with new life science people start with, oh, hi, Andrew, I saw the article you wrote last week on low ball offers. I thought that was really interesting. What are you seeing? So I know the market is seeing it and it's helping us close. It also gives us the platform to teach them to do it. Remember what I said earlier about the careers page blowing up because founders and execs were being more active online. So we're doing that work.
You're going in and supporting them on there, yeah.
Yeah, getting those foundations in themselves. So we're leveraging it in different ways. But to answer your question directly, what we found was that Tom Dove, one of the co-founders, he's like, 15,000 followers and connections, but all life sciences.
Yeah.
And so we kind of made the decision from a content strategy, right, I'll continue to push on the majority of stuff around careers and job search, with some direct selling and talking about hiring as a topic. So we are kind of leaning into that as well. But you go full on the life sciences, the products, the services, and more the direct buyer persona that we're after to build the business so that we're covering all parts of the community.
Yeah. And what's the plan now? Because, in fact, let's go back, because you said before we were offline, you talked about how you've probably been at 50 and now you're back to 35. It's been a difficult period. So let's talk about 2024 and the challenges that you face there. Yeah,
well, the investment into life sciences, so it was a massive post-COVID boom.
Yeah.
So we went in flying.
Hockey stick.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. And, we all thought we'd cracked it. And then the investment last year as a whole from PE and VC in life sciences was 20% of what it was in 2023.
Wow.
So small companies going out of business. We saw competitors, many of which we really respected in our world, in the exec search world, unable to navigate. And we lost some really good companies last year in our sector, which, I'm not anti the competition. I think there's an abundance of opportunity and that the good companies you want to see going well.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was tough. It also coincided, we had a number of things in our control and outside of our control that were putting the pressure on. We lost our NED. Unfortunately, he died. Rob Thesiger, a lot of the people who follow this will know him. He was an industry legend.
So sad.
Early 50s, out of nowhere. That was a massive loss to our boardroom. He was really good at keeping us on track.
Was it just a shock? It wasn't something that...
Oh, just one of those. Just got a phone call one day.
Wow.
So that was... he'd been with the guy since day one.
I didn't know. I heard about him. I didn't know.
Yeah. Top recruitment entrepreneur with a couple of exits under his name and just a lust for life, like legend of a guy. Left 4 boys. So obviously the biggest loss was for his family by far. But that was a loss for us. We also, like a lot of companies, had invested in headcount based on the hockey stick and then the market fund. So you find yourself with revenue pressures, but your cost base has gone up. Mm-hmm. And so FDI has always been an incredibly well-run, profitable business. And then all of a sudden you've got this tension happening. So we pivoted.
How many months did you let that play out before you have to make critical decisions?
Oh, I think, we let it play out quite a long time. We're not a hire and fire type group. And also, we were taking a longer term view of the business can carry this for a while because we want to be in the best position when it kicks back up.
Yeah.
And the fact that we stuck with that philosophy and those values has meant in the last few months that it's starting to really rocket again because we've got the infrastructure still in place. Whereas what we saw was some businesses, literally going right back down to bare bones. And now they're going to have to build up over the next 12 months. So we took a bit of pain knowing that we're all gambling to an extent, but placing a bet that the market will turn. And when it does, we want to make sure that we've got the infrastructure to kick off.
What were the triggers, though, to actually start letting some people go? Because you then have to make a decision on this.
Yeah, well, just the normal performance management thing. If you've got people that are, 6 months without contributing and that type of thing, your kind of hands are tied, right? So,
what were they doing, these people, though? Were they doing what they... Did they believe they were doing the work that was going to get them through it?
I think so. Yeah, I think they believed it. But I also think... Well, I think they believed they were doing the work, but I also think belief plays such an important part in the commercial world. Like, it's no surprise once you start doing well that other good stuff happens. It's such a momentum game, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And so I just think the whole market lost momentum. People knew that. People could feel that. All the candidates they were talking to were struggling to get hired. All the businesses they were talking to were saying we haven't got any money to invest, or we're going to go out of business if we can't raise 10 million in the next 6 months. So you just start to get that kind of...
You feel like you're in the wrong ship.
Yeah, and you end up with, excuse the expression, but shit-tinted lenses on, where all you can see is crap.
Yeah.
And so that's all you attract, and you just get stuck in that rut. And we've seen the complete opposite the last few months, whereby it's all positive sentiment, elections are out the way, the investment market's moving, the deals are happening, and it's just...
We're saying that, though. I think politically, both UK and US, whether you agree with who's in charge or not, it feels like... people can plan again now. People can make decisions, and that's got to be good.
Businesses need certainty, don't they, mate? Yeah. That's exactly right. So, difficult. As I say, we lost a lot of really good companies in recruitment generally, didn't we, in that period.
When did you see the turn, then? When did things start to feel positive again? Yeah,
I think the last quarter of last year. So we had, first 12 to 18 months, rapid growth. Then, a 12-month difficult period, and then we're probably 4, 5, 6 months into...
What's your role in the conduit between the founders and the people, and how do you navigate conversation, and what was your approach during that difficult time?
During the difficult...
At the end of the day, you didn't start the business, so
no.
Someone else has ultimately got the final say on certain things, depending on the structure. You've got a really interesting role there.
It's the third time I've done it, actually, been the conduit between founding teams and teams of recruiters and commercials, and it's nuanced. I think founder-led businesses are typically more purpose-driven, more emotion. It's quite paternalistic, isn't it? I'm sure how you feel about Hoxo.
100%.
And rightly so, because... these guys started in a box with the two of them.
Yeah, it's your baby.
And a plan on a piece of paper, and have built a business with offices across the world. And there's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, investment that's gone into that. So rightly so. So look, to answer your question directly, during the downturn, I think all kind of structures and everything was off, and it was sleeves rolled up, and we were all just diving in.
Yeah.
And sometimes that causes conflict in terms of messaging and things, but ultimately we had to just get stuck in. We were BDing, we were mentoring, we were managing, and we got through it as a result of the fact that we weren't afraid to get stuck in and do it. What we've done since is rebalance, reorganise, look at the org chart again. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what are the outliers from a structural perspective, what do we want it to look like in 2027, what are the milestones, what are all of our roles to get it there, and we've kind of rebalanced and gone again.
Looking at that paternal relationship from
Yeah.
founders, or maternal, if you like, if you're a female.
Yep.
I think you nailed it, and I one of the sponsors of the show, Beyond the Founder, Paul De Rosario, was on the show, and he's launched a business dedicated to that problem, really, where he wants to find, in recruitment and externally, he wants to help founders build leadership teams that release them from that constant emotional roller coaster. Like, why do you think so many founders will never bring? Why in our industry specifically? Why do they not bring more? Why do they not take the plunge to spend the money on senior people that can run the business better than them?
Because it's part of their what they do is their identity, and so they haven't uncoupled their identity from the business. It's so intertwined for a lot of people, and I have an understanding of that because I have been a founder of types and helped other founders, so I do understand that. So I think identity is the challenge. It's actually an extension of them.
Yeah.
That's what the business is.
How would you position it? Not you personally, but like, what's the benefit or the upside of taking that risk? And if you've identified I think if you're not growing, if you're not moving forward, because there's so many businesses that say they want to scale, but they don't.
Yes.
And they hit a very quick plateau at 10 or 15 people, and often majority of the business is like a resourcing team for them.
Yes.
Like, how would you position it that maybe they should look at relinquishing some of the leadership and actually letting other people come in and own things?
Well, I think a couple of things there. One, they should only do that if that fits with the goal that they have for the business. So if you want it to be a lifestyle business that's entirely plugged through you and that you're making all the decisions and that's what your purpose is and that's what gets you to work it out, don't hire a leadership team.
No, but I think we know, there's a lot of people who behave that way, but they say they don't want it.
I know, but there's a difference between what people need and what they want, right? So getting clear on what you want is the first thing.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest skill for any leader, regardless of business, and we look at this when we're assessing leaders for scale-ups for clients, is self-awareness, right? Yeah. And everybody has unique superpowers and talents. And I think understanding as a founder that it's okay that you're not a 9 out of 10 for the 8 competencies required to be a CEO of a 50, 100-person business is a great thing. And going, well, what are my unique talents that I bring to the world from our business point of view? How do I just spend more time doing that and then get everybody else working in that way and doing the same? And if you've got people spending 80% of their time on the stuff that they're brilliant at, everyone's going to enjoy their work more, it's going to grow quicker, and off we go.
What's the trigger then to making that call, do you think? What's the size or scale of a business where you might think,
The trigger is, a plan to exit. You can't exit if the business is all about you.
No.
So in Fraser Dove's case, we're very open about the fact that, it's a 5-year scale and exit plan for the founders to exit. And by the way, they've got a really cool EMI scheme whereby there's going to be like 20 shareholders already in the business as well, which is fantastic for culture and decision.
And it's real.
Oh, it's real, yes.
It's not like,
No, it's not shadow.
Mirror.
Shadow. No. It's an administered EMI scheme that's
Right.
and shares are released every year to the team members. So that's a really cool part of it. So clear goal, that's normally a trigger, but that doesn't solve the emotional trigger. But I think the onus is also on people coming into those leadership roles to build trust, have a no surprises policy, over communicate, and just show a bit of empathy towards the fact that sometimes, there's real emotion and attachment underneath this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Not everything has to be logical. You don't want to be trying to change everything overnight or come in like Captain Hindsight and say everything's crap. There's no point.
No.
So I think a bit of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, shared goals, these are the things that try and trigger it. The other thing that triggers it, sadly, is burnout.
Yeah.
And we've all got mates and contacts that have gone through that. But you can, as a founder, I think, get to the point whereby you are burning out.
You're not enjoying your own business, are you?
And the pain of staying the same is less than the pain of change.
Yeah.
And so it's time to make some moves.
I think in our industry, though, I would challenge people's appetite to spend the money as well. Like the thought of actually spending enough money on even a fee to find someone and then the salary, it just doesn't. I think honestly, like.
But that's what we sell to people every day.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you want to do it. You want to pay it the other way. Like someone like Paul, who's been. We were chatting, and he said like there's a lot of people who are interested, but when they hear like just a 20 grand fee, they're like, ooh.
Yeah.
They're charging 50 in their market, but they won't pay 20, and it's like.
Which would a 20 million exit? So
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I always find it funny when people run down rec to recs. They're like, oh, well, yeah, we don't use rec to recs. I was like, all right, well, why do your TA customers need to use you then? Surely the same thing stands up. Like, you either believe in the recruitment and search proposition or you don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the people that don't see the value in it, that's really just pulling up the handbrake because we don't want to change. And actually, fundamentally, I'm not ready to decouple yet. That's what it is. Let go. That's the challenge. Lucky with these guys, it's like, well, we're not going to be able to do what we want to do unless we give you the platform to do what you're going to need to do. Because ultimately, when they exit, the people that are left will be the ones that will be running the business.
Are you part of that second phase?
Of course, yeah.
You'd stick around?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And the MD and the other directors in the business, absolutely.
Would that be then for a second phase?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's how these things tend to go, isn't it? So you'd kind of probably take some capital off the table and then roll again for the next phase and go again.
Yeah.
Sounds
exciting.
Fun. Yeah, really cool.
How do you still have the energy and drive for recruitment after so many years and passion? And because you're always so positive. Whenever I speak to you, where does that come from? Like to still look at the industry and be so positive about it?
Because I just see opportunity, and opportunity is exciting, isn't it? And I don't ever see that changing. I have to surround myself with people who are really good at then executing on that opportunity and keeping the day-to-day cadence going, because I could be a magpie like a lot of commercial people and get overexcited by the latest thing. That's where the self-awareness comes in. But yeah, I just see opportunity, mate, genuinely. I think that personal branding, as we've spoken about before, is still in its early phases.
So early.
People don't understand that. They think they missed the boat. And it's like, no, this is still...
We're talking about like 1% of LinkedIn are getting like 80% of the views at the moment.
So I feel like I've got a platform. I feel like I'm in a good business with a clear roadmap. I feel like life sciences is an insane place to be. I love working with young people. I think that's really good for people in their 40s like me to still be tied in with those young people and enjoying that. And
are they wearing the same quarter zip get up?
Of course, yeah. They wouldn't be allowed in otherwise. Yeah, quarter zips only in our space. So yeah, there's plenty there to be excited about, and I just don't see the point in not being positive. You're not gonna get anything from it, are you?
No. But yeah, I think after last year, a lot of people are coming in with a slightly. I've felt optimism. Yeah. I'll be honest, I felt a lot of optimism in the last 2 weeks. First week back in January, though, was like fake optimism. You'd speak to someone who, and you'd like scratch through the surface and ask a few more questions, and they're like still a bit glum. Whereas I think it's getting better for sure. So, in terms of the alternative products bit, the community, talk me through like how you see that evolving for recruitment businesses, because it's a big part of my business now. If I look at the two services we offer, we've got the bootcamp, which is now our flagship program. We've taught 7,000 recruiters globally, and it's a repeatable engine that we're adding things like AI to, but it's fundamentally how do you get your LinkedIn to a level that your personal brand's generating revenue. The next phase, I think, is actually how do you get people off LinkedIn? Because once everyone's on LinkedIn. You're in that competitive. How do you get your arms around people in your own ecosystem? You've got your CRM, which doesn't fucking talk to anyone.
Nope.
And it's static. And yeah, you can use AI, and there's so many amazing things you can do with it. And then you've got the LinkedIn, which is the public domain, and there's something in the middle here, which is what I believe, and I call it purpose bigger than placements. And I think you're doing this yourself. So talk me through your strategy and thoughts around how, like, why and how you can wrap your arms around and create a community that gives you that consistent conversation that goes beyond the transactions.
Yeah. So I think recruitment companies have quite often a missed opportunity in this space because we have data, connections, insights and platforms that not many other industries have.
Yeah.
There's so much power in that. I also do think that the LinkedIn feed has changed for sure. I'm not part of the "this isn't Facebook" gang. Like, I think I think it's good that people are sharing their full selves and bring them full selves to work and stuff. But it's definitely not as thought leadership focused as it was 5 years ago.
No.
So people used to go to LinkedIn, and a lot of what they were going on there for was thought leadership. And now they're not getting as much thought leadership from their feed as they were.
Yeah.
So there's a real thirst and a hunger for spaces, industry spaces, where individuals can share ideas, share insights, collaborate, build new partnerships, get advice, get referrals of who the best research agencies are, all of that stuff to be had. And so, part of our strategy is we don't see a place in life sciences right now where the global community can go to access that.
Yeah.
And so we're going to become that place.
You're going to create it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think as well, it's about the micro conversations. So we've always been good at beers, lunches, breakfast meetings, round tables, but it doesn't go anywhere. They're like isolated events that just were part of what you did in 2021. Whereas I'm like, everyone's on LinkedIn, so it is a busy, noisy place. The reason that round table worked, the event you were at in America, Boston or whatever, when that other firm got referred, was because all 9 people were probably quite similar.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's we I think we originally met through the TRN, and the TRN have done an incredible job of putting like-minded people in a room that fucks off the noise of everyone else. And I'm like, it's there's work to be done here. We've got like a 12-month roadmap we take businesses on, but it starts with. It's funny because I think it starts with a brand that's outside of your recruitment business brand. So, like for example, one of our clients Kyle's got ambition, but he's got driven by data, the community. So the community is effectively designed to help chief data officers like better their careers and build have like a seat at the board table and not just be seen as like a tech part of the business. 1,500 chief data officers in a group, all over the world, connecting and engaging. And it's like, he could have called it the ambition community.
Yeah.
But that's not the word that's in their mind. That's not in their mind. The driven by data is something that they believe in. It's like, so is that are you going down similar routes?
Yeah.
You're branding these communities up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our Women in Life Science community is called Lift Up.
Yeah.
We started it 18 months ago. It's live broadcast, it's mentor programs, it's meetups, and it's an interactive group.
Yeah.
It's completely blown up. Hundreds of thousands of views on the live broadcasts, people making new connections, meetups, all of that stuff happening. And the idea behind that community is to champion, connect, and inspire the next level of women leaders within our industry.
The purpose.
That's the purpose behind it. You get 52% of the people who enter the science field being female and only 20% in the boardroom, right? So there's a leaky bucket there that is about inclusivity and about motherhood and about menopause and about all these different factors, discrimination at times, that needs addressing. And so we're addressing that, but we're not monetizing that. We're not like
Here's a fee
coaxing people in and then once they join the Lift Up community, specking them a CV.
No.
Right? Like that's not it. And this is where I see some people going,
because this is the 100 likes and 2 deals thing. Like, people have to see that numbers game.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not that.
But your primary monetization will be recruitment services, just on an adjective way, won't it? They'll come around in a different way.
It will, and it's a longer term play.
Yeah.
It's a longer term value creation play. It will add value from an exit point of view, for sure. But also, it keeps us sticky with, huge waves of diverse candidates
like
for our shortlist.
But like that. You
Yeah.
know, if you can see me on the camera.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly
It's having your
like that.
arms around it.
Yeah.
I still see LinkedIn like a huge conference center.
Yes.
That's how I've always looked at the recruitment industry, and like, again, maybe that's my weird photographic memory how I see the world, but
Yeah.
I see the recruitment industry as like a big circle that everyone's inside, and I love the fact that I don't need to think about any other sector because I could just put my arms around that one. And I've always done that in every job I've had. And so LinkedIn for me is like, that's how I see it. But then I'm like, an even smaller one where I can really get my arms around is my community. That's my HOXO members and things like that. The RAG is a community in its own sense.
Of course.
I find this stuff just so interesting.
It's fun.
And I feel really lucky because part of my job now is, actually working with members. I'm not like every single day in the weeds because I've got teams that do, but I'm the guy that sits down with them and plans it out. And I'm like, I fucking love it.
It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would encourage any recruitment business to think about whether they can become that place
Yeah.
for certain groups, and then not to screw it up by trying to monetize it too early or getting transactional in it. It's a longer term play. It's branding.
I think the people that are going to do it though are probably more. They've already thought. They're already bigger thinkers, and they've got that. I think the people that are. The people that are going to fail are the ones who are going to start something and stop it and drop it and pick it up and drop it. They're not going to consistently run anything. They're going to struggle.
Yeah, and it's another point of difference. We need to differentiate more than ever, right? Thousands of new recruitment companies every year. We all know about that, which is great for you, not great for me.
Yeah.
And we need to have genuine points of difference. And non-recruitment services, when they ask, what are you doing about DE&I? Everybody else is saying, well, we try and deliver diverse shortlists. That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas we're going, we've built this global community of women in life sciences who mentor each other, champion each other, et cetera, et cetera. That gives us access and an understanding of that talent pool in a way that your in-house team don't have and none of our competitors have.
And we're upskilling the future female boardroom.
To help solve the future.
We're creating
challenge.
the talent pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whilst your traditional exec search guys bowling around with a little black book, sticking the same 5 dudes in front of you that they stuck in front of you.
And they're not even wearing the quarter zip. They're wearing a suit. What are they doing?
How have they not got the quarter zip? But you know what I mean? So it's like, again, like you might not be able to say, I'm monetizing the people in this community in this way, but how many PSLs that I've won since we launched Lift Up, do you think that has been an amazing thing for me to be talking about that felt different, sounded different, and was delivering different to my competitors? Well, loads, isn't it?
Look, it's a good thing that, there's thousands that start every year, but there's a good thing that it's still like 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 that are doing any of this stuff. It's a good thing, because otherwise it'd be too complicated, too complex, and too competitive. So, I'm grateful that the industry is in its infancy, but I'm also, I'm passionate about educating and getting these stories out. Andrew, I want to say thank you. It's been
Thanks for having me on again.
It'd be good to see you again.
Good chat.
And for sure. And I'll get you on in the future. I want to find out more. When the 5-year plan is, what year are we roughly looking towards? 5 years from now, or 5 years from when you started?
No, so another sort of 2.5 years from where we are. So big year this year, lots of growth, going for it.
Let's get you back on in a couple of years.
Maybe
get all 3 of you on, and we'll talk about how it all
panned out.
Yeah, because I think if you look at the early days of the RAG, that was kind of the whole point. Again, the purpose of this show has shifted, and that's another thing about communities. They can meander. They don't have to be the same. So the show originally was all about scale and exit. Now I don't think that is actually my purpose in the show. My show is helping people build the business that they truly want. A bit what we said before. If you want the lifestyle business, there will be people on this show that will show you they've done it. But there's also people that are going to scale and exit, and those stories always get the view,
get the traction, and just remove it. I think what you're doing with the show as well is removing some of the blinkers.
Yeah,
it's the traditional things that have always worked will still always work, but we do have to evolve as well. Yeah, like recruitment's not dead, recruitment's not dying. I don't buy into any of that nonsense.
No, I don't.
But we do need to evolve, right? And I think it's really useful to hear from people that are experimenting with different routes to market. I'm going to be continuing to follow the podcast with great interest in terms of AI and technology, because that's the big kind of revolution that's coming. And so, I think this type of platform is important to get those messages out there and make sure that everyone's staying informed and spark some interesting ideas.
That's it.
Keep going.
Let's get you back on. Cheers,
Will do.
mate.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you as always for listening to today's show. I truly hope that you got value from it. Honestly, it's the only reason I take time every week to ensure that my audience, you guys, future and existing recruitment owners, you're learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. And today's episode is brought to you by my business, Hoxo. I'm the CEO and founder, and we're on a mission to help brand recruitment agencies and their people better. I want to help people have the tools to stand out in the most competitive markets in the world. So I'll see you again next week with another episode. Catch you soon.